Hello and welcome to Financial Technology Frontiers Live. We are in for a wonderful conversation around the topic of data as a part of our next evolution in enterprise data or NEED. And with me is John Duigenan. He is looking at both technology side and the financial services side together at IBM, and he is going to share with us some wonderful insights around how the banks and financial sector are looking at the evolution of data. Welcome to Financial Technology Frontiers Live, John.
Delighted to be with you today, Babu. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So, John, we have been hearing a lot about the evolution of data. We have been listening to a lot of talk around how AI is going to take the banking and financial businesses to the next level,
Yes.
be it from the generative AI or be it from customer experience. So, how is this story of data evolving? What is your thought and take on it?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, Baboos, but I'll try and keep it net. I think the starting point for most firms, even those that have been investing extensively around the world in data and data governance programs, is that still, in many cases, they have massive amounts of siloed data, right? Huge amounts of siloed data. That creates immediate issues around knowing what you've got, knowing where it is, and knowing who owns it. And if you don't know those key things, it's impossible to know how to use it. And so we've done a huge amount of work to start the journey with our data fabric technology to collect, organize, understand, analyze, and infuse AI into that data right from the get-go. So by virtualizing access to disparate pools of data, unifying the data catalog and data model around that data, and enabling self-service access and then self-service AI generation from it. So that's been our starting point, but that's really just the beginning of the journey. A lot of firms already derive value and create new value from being able to use the data that they have and just understanding what they have. Many firms started on the journey, Babu, because of a regulatory need. The regulator said, you don't know what you have, you don't know how you're using it. And so a catalog became essential at that point as a starting point. But most firms used a catalog purely for reporting purposes and didn't see the downstream opportunity, or maybe the upstream opportunity of creating new value from that data through self-service, AI, analytics, privacy controls, and lineage. And then when we come into all of the excitement around generative AI, that's just taken the conversation to a whole new level.
Interesting. And ultimately, all this is centered around one important thing: value creation to the customer. Okay. So, what are the new realms of possibilities in value creation to the customer with this whole story of generative AI or the story of AI that is going on?
So I tend to think about this around three themes. Customer experience and customer care is at the very heart of how I start that thought process and how I start the journey. I think about relationships I've had with financial services firms and other firms in the past and how they're full of friction, how they're disconnected, and oftentimes the feeling that the firm doesn't really know or understand me. So first of all, creating a notion of who is a customer. This might be a consumer, it might be a billion-dollar enterprise that's the customer, it might be a government. But who are they? What do we know about them? What do they need today? What are they going to need? That's sort of a notion of hyper-personalization. Oftentimes, Babu, people put the full stop in after hyper-personalization, but that's knowing somebody's just the start. Because if you don't act on what you know, you're not delivering that new customer experience, which is context sensitive, channel aware, instant decision making, and instant fulfillment. If I think about customer experience, those are the four aspects of it. So I start there and I think about how AI, orchestration, and automation deliver that whole new notion of customer experience. Second part I think of is talent and employee productivity. Think about all the manual processes that thousands of employees do across bank, whether it's in servicing administrative processes like KYC, know your customer for regulatory purposes, whether it's building proposals, whether it's understanding regulations. Employees spend thousands of hours doing this with their eyes and brains. Without assistance, they're not replacing that skill. AI's assisting those skills and focusing them and optimizing a person's time. The last one I like to think about, Babu, is around platform modernization or application modernization. Think about the billions of lines of COBOL. That's all data. It's unstructured data.
Correct.
Next generation unstructured data, 50-year-old COBOL. What can we do with that when we understand it? The first thing we can do is visualize it. Visualizing code is such an important technique in us being able to understand how it's structured, how it's put together, how it fits together. Once we understand those things, we can think about, can I rewrite that code to maybe a more modern programming language like Java? And generative AI can truly help us do things like that. So I think about customer care, delivering that holistic, contextual customer experience. I think about how we make employees more productive, and I think about how we bring current platforms into the future.
Wonderful. And to add to it can be the risk management, the fraud management, and related areas as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to just make it very clear that when we think about generative AI at IBM, we're thinking around some very specific contextual information or differentiation. There's so much buzz in the market, Babu, around generative AI, but that is really oriented towards what I would call consumer-grade AI. In consumer-grade AI, we're writing our resumes, we're writing funny songs and poems, or whatever it might be. And it doesn't matter whether the answers are correct or not. It doesn't matter whether the large language model gets it right or wrong. When we think about that, it's incredibly important for us that we're targeting what we do and being very clear on what we do. So we start with the idea that generative AI and the generative AI in what's next is open. That says that when we think about foundational models and large language models, we create those, other firms create those, and our customers and their customers may create those. So we've created a platform that says that large language models will come from many places, but can be run on one platform. Trusted is essential for us in how we build generative AI and deliver generative AI. So not only does that mean that the models that we build can be verified as being correct, containing correct information, they don't have hate speech, they don't have copyrighted data, other people's intellectual property. And when we create an answer, we can explain why and how we created that answer within the generative model. Third, targeted. So like I said, we're creating enterprise targeted AI around those specific use cases I mentioned before: customer care, employee productivity, modernization. We don't need to paint pictures or write songs. It's not what we do. And the last point, empowering. AI needs to lift people in their lives. They need to support companies' purposes. It's not frivolous, right? This is meaningful change for our world, and it's creating new value. So when we say empowering, we're thinking about creating new value and lifting people in their lives. So open, trusted, targeted, and empowering. That's what we do with What's Next today.
Wonderful. And one of the most important aspects, I have definitely had a lot of conversations with IBMers in the past where they have spoken about how you are integrating the data across the various silos so that it can actually work together to create
Yes.
a whole lot of data information which can be used to be mined and get the right kind of customization on one side.
Absolutely.
But then the other side is, do you have the right kind of data? Okay, garbage in is ultimately garbage out. So how do you work this challenge out of ensuring that the data is right and it is the kind of fit data to do the AI on?
Well, we've had bias detection in IBM AI for a very long time, Babu. So we've been able to detect whether the AI we are creating is bias ridden and detect that and adjust it. So we've been very intentional about the quality of AI in the models. And so we can report statistics on that. The broader question is important because when I think about lots of silos of data, that to me sounds like a hybrid problem. And hybrid in my mind is all about having workload and data in many different places and being able to connect and interoperate on that data and those functions as a unified pool of resources. This is particularly important with AI as we think about how the original public services were created. They mandate, Babu, that you shall bring your data to my cloud and to my model. We have an absolute alternative approach to the view that says, no, we will bring the AI to our AI to your data. And that's hugely differentiated because a firm may not wish to commingle their most valuable data in some service that they don't know and understand. And they know that they can trust IBM to be a responsible actor in how their data is used and how that fits to their progression of AI.
Wonderful. I think this is a great conversation. Thank you very much for a wonderful
Babu, it was a delight. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
See you again soon.
You too. Thanks.